Jenny and Mark, a young couple trying to mend a fractured relationship, move into a remote countryside house surrounded by dense woods. They're seeking to escape the pressures of the city and their past mistakes, hoping that the isolation will help them reconnect. But soon, Jenny starts sensing that something is off. There's a dark presence in the woods, watching them. Jenny and Mark's relationship is strained. They've been together for 4 years, but an affair in the past has left deep wounds. Jenny suggested the move to the countryside, hoping to heal their trust issues, while Mark agreed reluctantly. He's more comfortable with the city, but he feels he owes Jenny after his betrayal. They settle into the new house with tense smiles, trying to mask their lingering doubts. During the day, things seem normal. Mark busies himself with repairing the old property while Jenny works remotely, writing nature articles. However, when the sun goes down, Jenny begins feeling uneasy. The shadows in the woods seem to stretch towards the house. Mark, always dismissive of Jenny's fears, rolls his eyes when she mentions it. One night, Jenny is sure she sees someone standing just beyond the tree line, an outline of a figure watching the house. When she tells Mark, he brushes it off as a deer or her imagination, and the lack of validation only deepens their conflict. Tensions rise as Mark begins acting more distant, retreating into the woods at odd hours without explanation. Jenny suspects he's hiding something again, and old wounds start to reopen. She finds an old journal in the attic while searching for clues to Mark's behavior. The entries, written in frantic handwriting, speak of the Watcher, a man who vanished in the woods, cursed to return each night as a twisted shadow, feeding on the anxieties of those who see him. Jenny reads deeper, realizing the previous owner of the house went mad trying to banish the Watcher, but disappeared before finishing the last entry. She decides not to tell Mark, fearing he'll use it as an excuse to dismiss her concerns again. Instead, she starts leaving notes around the house with journal entries, hoping to convince him subtly. But Mark's behavior worsens. He's lost weight, his eyes sunken and cold. Jenny catches him staring blankly out the window, muttering under his breath. When she confronts him, he lashes out, accusing her of not letting go of the past, suggesting that her paranoia is the real problem. In a moment of vulnerability, Jenny admits that she hasn't fully forgiven him and questions if he ever loved her. Mark storms off, disappearing into the woods for hours. When he returns, he's soaked to the bone and says nothing, his silence more frightening than any words. Jenny is alone in the house, spiraling into paranoia. The feeling of being watched is unbearable. She's sure the Watcher's getting closer every night. She can hear footsteps circling the house, soft taps on the windows, and whispered voices that sound like Mark's. She becomes convinced the Watcher is using Mark, slowly eroding his sanity until he becomes one of them, a pawn of the forest. Desperate, she follows the final pages of the journal, lighting a fire in the center of the woods under a full moon. The forest is deathly quiet, and she sees Mark standing in the clearing, staring at her with empty eyes. She reads the final passage aloud, a desperate plea for forgiveness, a recognition of her own faults and fears. She confesses everything she's kept hidden, the jealousy, the rage, the scars that never healed. The Watcher appears, no longer a shadow but a man with a face half shrouded in darkness, his eyes reflecting all the sorrow and pain they've endured. He raises a hand toward her, and suddenly she's overwhelmed by visions, flashes of Mark's betrayal, her own suspicions, and the cyclical nature of hurt. She realizes the forest has always been feeding on their pain, keeping them locked in a pattern they couldn't escape. Jenny wakes up alone in the woods, daylight filtering through the trees. The house is abandoned and Mark is gone. She finds the journal lying open in the grass, but the last pages have been burned away. A single photograph is pinned to a tree, an image of her and Mark in happier times, with the watcher faintly visible behind them. She heads back to the empty house, and as she steps inside, she feels an all-too-familiar presence behind her. She doesn't turn around.